The federal government just they do their things. They do them like say people where they work for civil service, not be human being. They know they buy fuel as they buy. Just look at the take home for only senators, almost 30 million naira in a month. These 2 days, me at the first. For doing like 1 week.
As a civil servant that is paying rent, landlords they have increased their house rent. It's from that salary that you pay your rent. You have children that go to school from that small salary you pay school fees, and everything is costly in the market. The 100, if they manage and pay that 100,000 like to help a little.
Our correspondent reports that the gates of the judiciary complex in Port Harcourt are now open for business, and some lawyers also spoke about the impact of the strike on court cases.
The impact is that it slows down the expeditious hearing of cases, and the litigants and lawyers have a particular expectation from the judiciary. In as much as the strike is for a meaningful cause, the government should try to listen to that everything will go back to normal.
One, it had impact on lawyers. Normally, lawyers are paid according to their appearances. For those lawyers, it means they didn't earn anything for that yesterday. For litigants, for example, for inmates who were supposed to be here yesterday, and they couldn't make it to court because of the strike. So it means invariably delayed proceedings for them.
Well, banks and public schools also resumed full operation today. Meanwhile, a former chairperson of the Nigerian Labour Congress in Rivers State, Beatrice Itubo, says the nationwide strike by labour unions was a last resort to get the federal government's attention. Mrs. Itubo said this today on Nigerian 4FM's Morning Crossfire, and she also said the strike may return if the government fails to meet labour's demands.
If you see the way things are skyrocketing, I'm talking of inflation in the country. You go to market today, what you bought for 10,000 naira, as you go to the they are buying it for 20. I am thinking that if government is sensitive and they want to cushion the effect of this inflation on workers, the minimum I should be expecting for them is 250,000. With a caveat that they should also come and begin to work on the economy so that the inflation will come down.
In the meantime, the meeting of the Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage reconvened today in Abuja to continue negotiations over a new minimum wage for workers in the country. The organized labour suspended its indefinite strike on Tuesday after reaching an agreement with the federal government that negotiations should continue daily. And today's meeting was the first after that agreement was signed. Well, President Bola Tinubu had directed the committee to speed up the process, compute the figures, and send them to him. The president also said he was committed to a wage above 60,000 naira, while the TUC and the NLC said they were not fixated on their 494,000 naira demand. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has called on the federal government to redirect the focus of its negotiation from fixing a minimum wage to fixing a realistic living wage in line with current market realities. The motion was moved during plenary today. The minority leader, Kingsley Chinda, urged his colleagues to speedily amend the minimum wage bill, as they did with the national anthem. Moving on, a civil engineer in Port Harcourt, David Eneowaji, is urging the Rivers State government to conduct an integrity test on the Obirikwere flyover in Port Harcourt following an explosion there yesterday. In an interview with our correspondent, Mr. Eneowaji, a member of the Nigeria Society of Engineers, said the heat from fire is harmful to concrete and steel structures.
For a public structure like this flyover, I presume that concrete cover was considerably greater. What fire does to steel is that fire changes the microstructure of steel, which consequentially reduces the strength of the steel. Explosions would affect the integrity of the flyover if it exceeds 3 hours or the stipulated fire rating of that particular design. I think the proper thing is for integrity tests to be carried out. If there are any physical damages, should be corrected. Then if there are no physical damages, however, we need to check. We need to make sure the reinforcements are okay.
Well, yesterday, some residents who live near the Obirikwere flyover in Port Harcourt said they felt vibrations when a gas truck carrying about 8 cylinders fell on a vehicle and exploded. In other news, as the world marks Environment Day, an environmental and agricultural expert, Anthony Onoja, wants the Rivers State government to take steps to reclaim some of the lands that have been polluted through oil pollution. Well, Professor Onoja, the Director, Institute of Agricultural Research and Development at the University of Port Harcourt, said this during an interview with correspondent Onyeka Chinwosu, where he also called for more funding of research activities to help find solutions to the problem of desertification.
even the land that is available for farming, most of them have been polluted. So what effort is the state making in order to reclaim the lost land? So these are activities like even creating awareness among them, funding research activities that will help, reclaim some of the land, the wetland that have been polluted, and also efforts towards abating pollution activities that are caused by illegal mining and other activities that are polluting the environment.
Well, this year's World Environment Day theme is Land Restoration, Desertification and Drought Resilience. Still to come, lawyers criticize the Attorney General's approach to local government autonomy. Stay tuned. For staying with us, and now to the rest of the news. Some lawyers in Port Harcourt are criticizing the approach taken by the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, in securing full autonomy for local government administration. While the Supreme Court is set to hear the case on 13th June, brought by the AGF, a lawyer, Promise Nwobiri, in an interview with correspondent Soibi Oruwari, said the AGF should first seek a constitutional amendment before approaching the Supreme Court to take away the power of the state government to administer the affairs of the local government areas.
Is unconstitutional to a very large extent. It's an aberration. Section 7 sub 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended provides for a democratically elected local government council. They say Section 7 sub 1 didn't stop there. It went ahead to say that the government of every state shall ensure their existence, that is the existence of those local government, under a law which provides for the establishment, structure, composition, finance, and functions of such councils.
Another lawyer, Sogbeyi Eli, says the best way to get local government autonomy is through legislative means and not judicial process.
With respect to the Honorable Attorney General, it's a journey to nowhere. Just a year ago, President Muhammadu Buhari enacted Executive Order 10. Executive Order 10 was to give effect to local government and judicial autonomy. The governors went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said you can't do that. Well, the President doesn't have executive powers. His powers are executive powers. So you cannot use the Executive Order to amend the Constitution. The power to grant autonomy to local government council judiciary must be by constitutional amendments, which was not done. So what the president would have done was to go to the National Assembly, lobby 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of them to pass that vote, and then come to the House Assembly of the state. You need 2/3 of the 36 states assembly.
The Auditors General for Local Government Area Councils in Nigeria are holding their 28th annual conference in Port Harcourt. The discussion for the conference is centered on issues related to accountability and transparency in the effective management of financial resources in the public sector. While speaking at the conference's opening ceremony, Chairman of the Conference of Auditors General for Local Governments in Nigeria, Atiku Musa, said it is important to adopt international public sector accounting standards to ensure accountability of local government funds in Nigeria.
It is more important than ever to have sound financial management procedures in this changing environment. The necessity of integrating IFSAs into local government structure is central to our conversions in the public sector. IFSAs act as a worldwide standard for financial reporting that fosters accountability, transparency, and fiscal sustainability. It is our responsibility as Auditor General to maintain the highest standard of financial governance and guarantee IFSA's compliance as steward of public resources.
Well, the Auditor General for Local Governments in Rivers State, Friday Bema, also spoke.
Auditors General for Local Governments play a pivotal role in ensuring compliance, assessing financial performance, and safeguarding public funds. Their oversight helps maintain trust in governance process among technological advancements and economic challenges. Our agenda is designed to not only address current challenges, but also to anticipate future trends and prepare us for the evolving landscape of public sector auditing in this era of disruptive and digital technologies.
Well, in his address, Rivers State Head of Service George Wike expressed concerns about the obstacles facing the implementation of public accounting standards as in the digital and disruptive economy and the third tier of government, the role of the Auditors General for Local Government. Away from that, a security expert, Efe Wanogo, has attributed the rising deceit of young people on social media to society's idolization of wealth, regardless of how it is obtained. Mr. Wanogo said this in an interview with correspondent Emekutka while reacting to reports of the disappearance of two friends, Celine Ndodim and Afi Batando, who traveled from Port Harcourt to Aba in Abia State to spend the weekend with a Facebook friend, Andrew Amechi. Well, Mr. Wanogo said that society's recognition of wealth has led to increased peer pressure.
In Nigeria that we grew up in, days of 80s and early 90s, you find that anybody who has some property, who is supposedly affluent in the environment, but cannot show any evidence of a legitimate source of income, it's basically ostracized in the community. Everybody keeps their distance from the person. But what do we have today? We have all manner of recognition. Chieftaincy titles are bestowed on people simply because they have money. People are what even honorary doctorate degrees. And of course, peer pressure is also a factor. Parents now encourage their children to get married to people who have so much money without bothering to check whether they have a legitimate means of livelihood, whether their children will even be further endangered or corrupted by such persons.
Mr. Wanogo also said that cultural and moral values in the society are declining, and he urged the National Orientation Agency, NOA, traditional rulers and regional organizations to sensitize young people. He also called for proper profiling of social media friends.
For the very first time you should meet such person, it has to be in a public place where you can house other people. And even before you decide to even meet with somebody, there must have been other checks you would have done to satisfy you that this person does not have sinister motives. For instance, what is the person's means of livelihood? What are the mutual friends you have with the person? What does the person do? Is there a known is who he says he is, what he does, or where he stays? So there ought to be things that satisfy you, that you can have some reasonable measure of trust on the person. Of course, you cannot know entirely any human being.
Well, as you may know, the suspect in the disappearance of the two girls, Mr. Amechi, was arrested in May but was allegedly killed as he was being transferred to Abuja.
And now, we bring you news from around the world.
The Israeli military has launched a new military campaign in central Gaza. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, in a statement, said troops backed by airstrikes were targeting terrorists and terrorist infrastructure above and below ground in the Bureij refugee camp and east of the town of Deir al-Bala in the central Gaza Strip. And that's it for the news this evening. But before we go, let's take a look at the highlights. On the news this evening, you heard that the federal government and Labour have resumed wage talks after strike. Well, lawyers in Port Harcourt have criticised the Attorney General's approach to local government autonomy. An expert is calling for integrity test to be done on the Obirikwere flyover in Port Harcourt following an explosion there. And on the foreign scene, Israel has launched a new military campaign in Gaza. The news was edited by Martha Okirenkem. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808 721 7215. I am Constance Mega. Thank you so much for listening. Good evening.